Hi everyone and welcome to this week's episode of Fight Chat Friday from TKD Coach Academy. This week we're going to be comparing one of the, I would say, legends of the past in terms of Ales Zemljic, multiple times European champion, absolutely top competitor with Slovenia in the minus 80 kilo division, with a modern day equivalent maybe in terms of Amin Rmadan. From Germany, who's multiple times champion at the moment, also at the European level, world champion as well, and maybe some very different styles, maybe some similarities. And if you'd like to see what we thought of their styles in comparison, stay with us for this one.
Hey everybody, welcome back to this week's episode. So the verses and the comparisons have been doing pretty well and people tend to like these ones. So we decided to switch things up and take a modern day champion in Amin in the minus 85 division, and the equivalent of that back in the 2000s era, let's say, was the minus 80 division. So one of the kings of that era was Ales Zemljic from Slovenia. So we said that we would get some of those clips there from the two guys and chop them up and see is there any comparisons in terms of the similarities they have and any differences. Now, when you look at it from the broad perspective, these guys are completely different. But when we started to look at the clips, there's actually some more similarities than you would imagine. They're similar, but they're different. So we'll compare and contrast and we'll see what you guys think.
Yeah, so maybe we start from the ground up and we have a look at that stance. And this is where we definitely expected to see some difference between the guys, isn't it? And, we would think of Ales, as I'd remember him, as being very, very much more of, wanting to get to hands, a bit more half facing, and really looking to get stuck in and bring that backhand into play as well.
Yeah, Amin is here in blue is very much more playful and very bladed. So his punching style, which we will cover later, is a product of that. Where look at Ales here, he's more full facing, he's more willing to get to hands, which changes his foot position. He does use the side kick really well, but he's very, very quickly able to switch his front foot position into a half and full facing. Even you see his toes here on the front foot, that changes everything, and that allows him to get more into contact with the hands and a little bit more continuation with the hands.
Yeah, I think the continuation element of it, they have a very, very different style in terms of how continuation works. And, we mentioned it when we were talking about Amin before, where he's not really looking for the hands to give him forward momentum. He's looking at the hands at the entry, and then he's usually looking to create a little bit of separation and go back to the legs or to the hands again in order to get the next score. Whereas I think Ales, it's fair to say, is looking to create space with the hands to let him finish with the kick.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like there's no real rule changes in terms of the scoring from Ales's era to right now, but there was a lot more half-facing and potentially even a couple of full-facing guys compared to now, where now it's very much side-facing and bladed, where I think it's more emphasis on the speed and getting in and out really quick.
Definitely, and it does just allow us to have a good starting point for a comparison between the styles. Thinking about the difference between then and now, I suppose it's fair to say contact and how contact is viewed has certainly evolved over that 10 to 15 year period.
Yeah, where like nowadays Amin is looking to he hits hard, but his contact is different in terms of he's looking for it for scores. Where I feel like Ales's mindset is more of he's looking for contact to put damage on you, hurt you, and put you on the back foot. Where it's a little bit of a different mentality, it seems, just from the outset, where he's looking to bring the fight to you. And you can see that from the clips here. He's looking to literally bully you.
Yeah, and there's a physical presence always with Ales. There's rarely a backward step. When the trade comes and it comes to hands, like if you're the one who flinches out of it, you're giving him an opportunity to open up those legs and to finish stronger and get those value scores in. But you have to be tough enough to be able to trade with him as well, which I don't. Amin is certainly able to do damage with the hands, but I think it's the single explosive shot rather than the wear and tear of standing toe to toe with Ales.
I think the way to sum up the contact for me is Alamin is looking to land his shots to get to another shot or to get an exit, where Alice is very happy to give and take to put damage. And I think that's where kind of the difference is more so.
For sure. So talking about the use of the hands there, you know, we've talked already about how the stance lends towards particular ways of implementing the hands. What else is kind of standing out? So between the contact and the stance, what else comes out with the hands?
Well, the variation of the blitz, where Alamin uses front hand to kind of loop over, like we see here, and that's kind of a reason because of the stance too, where Alice is more of the traditional boxing style. Now, both of these guys do kickboxing and light contact and wacko back in the day for Alice as well. But the style of punching is completely different, whereas Alice is using more of a traditional boxing style, and Alamin is using more of a point style kind of boxing, where you see even the double jab there from Alice in the last clip.
Yeah. I think another thing in terms of when they're looking at closing a bit more distance with the hands, the hopping blitz or the that Alamin sometimes uses, and the looping front hand, very different from the committed backhand initiation that we see from Alice here. The whole body is behind that, but with when you start with the backhand coming in like that, it automatically opens up the front hand in continuation with hands.
Yeah, Alice usually tends to go straight down the direct line as well with his hands, where Alamin kind of brings them from his hips because he carries his hands lower naturally. Yeah. So you can see his hands here travel upward toward the target, where Alice is very much more direct because of his initial hand position that he starts with.
For sure. But
that impacts the distance too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And that kind of leads us into this one of, I think where we started to find some similarities in terms of how they sparred.
Yeah, the pressure is a factor of both their games big time. But you can see here Alamin uses it a little bit different, where he's not he uses it with the threats of the shots. So it's even like the threat of a big score, not even like a big heavy shot, but he's always there as well. His footwork is always ready to go forward and go back pretty quick. And that's what we see here against Danilo, who's a very, very high-level guy as well. But he always has that threat to come in off the backhand, to use the front leg. And he mixes the pressure with the hands and the legs really well for me. You don't know if it's going to be a blitz. You don't know if it's going to be his front leg. And that's a big part of Alamin's pressure.
Yeah, and he has that little bit of... so even if he's not being first, he's often willing to step in and spoil or counter. So it means you're constantly having to deal with the hassle of him being there, especially when he gets that position. So in the center of the ring, a little bit more forgiving. But once that, that edge position, or there's that threat of an exit, or he's got you pinned towards the edge, he's usually very, very, stingy in terms of giving you opportunities.
Yeah, even his pressure here on just pretending to lift the foot, not lifting the foot, his rhythm as well mixed in with that is just different to Alice. So he's in and out more on the feet, using more footwork, using more timing, compared to Alice. So he's a bit more bouncy and more almost like stalking in terms of Alice's style, which we will see coming up there now next.
Absolutely. And I do think, the feeling from the opponent's perspective is similar but different. So you feel the pressure, you feel the need to make decisions and to take action, but you feel it in slightly different ways, in terms of you might feel a little bit more of the, let's say, physical presence and intimidation here, that if I make the wrong decision, I'm getting a good jab in the head, and we'll see where we go from there, as opposed to the feeling that you have with Alamin, where it's if that the scores will run away from you.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's going to be very threatening with big shots, like headshots and things like that, where Alice, generally, his pressure will come once he gets past that initial longer range. He's coming with the hands, and he's putting pressure with you going forwards, and he's carrying big momentum, a big strong guy. I don't know how he even made 80 kilos, to be honest. He is a big man. So he's coming through there with a lot of body weight behind him and a lot of momentum as well, which is very hard to stop. Even Ronnie here puts in a nice back kick, and he can't put a stop on him.
Yeah, and a lot of that is just because the distance is just too close. The momentum is forward. He doesn't let that big distance develop. But
and that's what it is. He's mooching in all the time as well. He's getting closer and closer and closer. Where Alamin, he's in out, and he's also ready. Then see, for me, a big pressure is probably not the right word, but the big threat as well with Amin is he's very slick with his counters. So it's like, is he going to pull back and pick me off with a beautiful counter, or is he going to attack me? So that's the question that Amin poses with his pressure, where Alice, you're generally going to be content that he's coming to you and he's going to be the person leading the attack.
Absolutely. And like Amin asks Alice asks a very simple question, like, if I step into your range, are you going to try and kick me? And if you do, I'll punch you in the face. If I step into your range, are you going to go and punch me? Okay, I'll stand and trade with you. And you're just constantly faced with that question. And so to do it, you have to be a little bit more like Amin. You have to be able to pull him onto different angles, make the distance too long so that you can start first, commit to hands from a different distance. You have to find an angle outside of his front foot. You have to constantly think and work at it, which you might well do very, very well for 2 minutes. But to do that consistently over 4 minutes, it's what people found very hard to do, I think.
Yeah, here's where we see like Alamin's rhythm pressure is different to Alice, where Alice is gradual forward pressure.
Yeah.
Where you can see like Alamin's footwork and rhythm is just a little bit different in terms of his timing with that is just different. So he poses different threats, I guess.
You have to concentrate in a different way to deal with it.
Yeah.
And so these different styles in terms of facing, in terms of like the rhythms, give some differences in shot selection, but they use some interchangeable shots, I suppose you could say.
Yeah, this is where for me they were same but different, if that makes sense. Like both of them like to get to the hands off the front leg entry in particular, and also both of them are a big fan of a back kick. Both of them big fan of a backhand. We didn't see too many clips. Obviously, there wasn't as many clips around from Alice back in the day because it was just a different time where phones weren't as high tech. Let's say,
to bring a camera.
They both do like some shots. I think Alice is a big fan of an axe kick as well, for a headshot, which we see Amin using very kind of let's say nuanced versions of that, where he actually brings it into like from a bande, so he's coming off his back leg sometimes and does a version of a bande dolio hacks kind of kick, which is really cool. So they are similar in terms of the shot selection, but it's just their style is different. We've seen this kind of floater from Amin here. He just drives over the top, and there's a couple of clips of Alice trying the same thing where he just comes over the top with that front leg dolio, missing with the side kick to the body and drifting over to the head with the flicky turning kick.
Yeah, and I think where you're looking at that is they both had a capacity to force their opponent to give them space using that headshot, whether it was Alice the downward kick or the shifting middle high, or you'd have it again from Amin with the he'll put the body shot on once or twice and then he'll float up to the head, or as you said there, that very interesting spinning almost hacks kick, and they're nice axe kick.
Alice. Yeah. More traditional. Like you can see where Z at 63 now kind of gets his axe from, he's the side facing and then he's able to bring it up. This one was an interesting one as well, like over the top of the shoulder. Here's the floater that we see. So a cool video put together from Ollie Leno there as well of a highlight of Alice. So some nice clips in that one.
Yeah, and and the thing is, he has a lovely way of throwing that downward kick without really changing his head position. So it has begun before the head position changes. And for, as you said, for a big man and a strong man, like you're not expecting him to pick up the legs. Like I think I just love in that last clip. Like you're not expecting from what you've seen that from all of this so far, and then all of a sudden it's like flicky. Like you're just not expecting that.
A second ago, it's actually very similar. So that's kind of where I was. And there's the back kick that we just seen as well. So they're completely different, but they're similar in ways, which is cool. You can see that they both have they're very much aware of their own strengths and they play to their strengths big time. So I would actually love to see this fight if they were both in the same era. I think it would be a cracker. It would be a great fight.
Absolutely.
And no doubt the two of them would be the top guys in the division as well.
I'm sure they'd be well up for it as well. That's the other thing.
Yeah,
they love a challenge.
Definitely. I think Alice would still take it on, to be honest.
We won't put it in, but it's but it's definitely it's an interesting thing to look at, and there isn't a huge time difference. Like Alice was still very much competitive in 2011, 2012, that kind of era, and which yes, it's a decade ago, but and he'd been around for the previous decade as well. So it's that kind of thing of, we're probably looking at it at a, you know, something of a 15-year gap rather than a 20-year gap. But I think two absolute champions, and, you know, hugely influential styles in terms of their impact on the game, you know, as they're playing it and as they're dominating and winning in it.
That's a great point, actually, because like back in when I started competing internationally in 2007, Alice was one of the guys that people were trying to imitate. Daniel Jaula, another guy in the 70s division, and now Amin is one of the guys who the younger guys are trying to imitate and look up to. So that's a good point as well. These guys are setting out the stall for ITF and kind of leading the way.
Absolutely.
Which kind of brings up the question of this whole video, and the motivation behind it is, what kind of is the style that people prefer? Do they like the new modern 2020s version? Do they like the more style from the 2000s? And it was interesting to see that it's like a 60-40 split, so it's not really clear cut, but at the same time people are happy with the way the style of ITF is going right now. So
I'm sure it's quite influenced by the fact that most of the people who'll be, you know, checking things out on YouTube and all the rest of it are, you know, probably a little bit younger. They're probably not guys who were, you know, tapping about in the 2000s, and you know, nothing ever gets like worse over time, does it? Like, surely everything always gets better. Yeah. So
that's that. So if you enjoy this style of video, let us know, and if there's another comparison you'd like us to do, we'll definitely get stuck into that, because I think people do tend to enjoy the verses and the comparison videos. So check out some of the other ones we did from the 80s into the 2000s style, and we did some recent ones as well with the different styles from around the world. So any suggestions, let us know, and do let us know in the comments as well whether you're a fan of the new modern style or if you're in favor of the old school ITF sparring. So get involved in the comments, and we'll catch you in the next one.
See you next Friday. Bye now.